What's good, everybody? I'm Zero to Chaos,
And I am melting data.
and welcome back to Culture Clash. Boy, hopefully everybody had a good Thanksgiving. Hopefully everybody's still doing good. Data, how you been doing, man?
Been doing mostly good. Had a rough couple days, but we have recovered from the coof and we are back at it.
That's right. Um, of course, this is episode 9. Yes, this is episode 9.
Yes.
And boy, time is flying. We're already in December. The year is almost
Yes.
over, y'all.
It is dangerously close to Christmas.
Super dangerous. And your boy needs to get on it. Because I haven't. I am going to be Arnold Schwarzenegger looking for a Turbo Man. Day of. If you got the reference, you're awesome. This is Thanksgiving has passed. That means Black Friday has also passed. If anybody,
Yes.
if anybody dabbled in that, I definitely didn't. Heard that you picked up something.
Yeah, it was technically a before Thanksgiving kind of sale, but I was online, as one is, and I came across a PlayStation 5 for like $350, and I was like, well, I guess I got to. I mean, it's not going to be that cheap again, probably.
Like, nah, it won't. It won't. Because the best thing is that because of the PS5 Pros, you will find those gems of people trying to just push off their regular PS5s.
This wasn't even a regular PS5. This was the PS5 Slim, brand new.
Oh, brand. See, I didn't know that. I was under the assumption that this was like a used one. So that's even better.
Nah, I found this brand new. It's the Slim model, so like I don't think it's quite as fast if I remember,
Mm-hmm.
but I got that one because in the future, if I want to, they make like a disk drive add-on that I could add a disk tray to it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, right now, I ain't got one, but like I also don't have any physical games for it yet, so that's not really a big deal.
Yeah, and we talked about that too with Sony and their attachments.
Yes,
Thank
we
you,
did.
thank you, Sony, for just making things more complicated. But I have to
Yes.
know. But I thought maybe this episode we can definitely bring that up because with the holiday season being here, a lot of people we know were not really happy with the rollout of the PS5 Pro.
That's fair.
So my question for you would be more because it's the slim version, but what do you think so far of the PS5?
So this is my first time owning a PlayStation since the PS3. Quite a
Okay.
while. I didn't have a 4. This is also the first time in a long time that I've had every like competing console. I've got an Xbox, I've got a Nintendo Switch, I got a PS5.
Okay.
Um, so far with the PlayStation, there are things that they just do better. And the biggest couple to me, like their controller, comparing that mostly to Microsoft, but also a little bit to Nintendo. Their controller is just the best one on the market. Like, I didn't think it was going to be that big of a thing with the adaptive triggers
Mm-hmm.
until I experienced it, and I was like, okay, that really is different, and that really is like something that's good to add into it. Because like it makes it where sometimes it gets like stiffer the more that you pull it. Sometimes they can make it where like it's loose until you hit a wall and then you have to pull hard and then you'll get this feeling where you like break through the wall and it just like snaps real quick. Other times they can make it where the triggers will like move back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
So you get not just like vibration from the triggers, but like they're physically moving, adding like even more to it. Like the adaptive triggers, genuinely awesome. Like I didn't think they were going to be a big deal, but they're a pretty big deal.
Because I haven't gotten the PS5 yet. I by the time the original PS5 came out, I couldn't get my hands on it, so I ended up just taking that money and investing it into the PC. So I went
Yeah.
that way with it. And then now the PS5 Pro, I'm kind of like, I might just skip it at that point. But I do most of my gaming on the Xbox controller. So but the time that I did spend with a PS5 controller, I think just because it might be a little biased at this point, because my hands are used to the Xbox controller at this point. But the PS5 controller, I just felt like I was going to break that thing, man.
Yeah.
Personally, and my hands are pretty big size. I know that's being kind of blurred out with the camera, but it's but the triggers felt fine. It was more of just the overall frame and the shape of it that I think. I mean, of course, you play it long enough, you'll get used to it.
Yeah.
But
And back in the day, to be fair, I didn't have a PS4, so I can't really speak on that too much. But coming from my last one being the PS3 straight to the PS5,
mm-hmm.
the PS3 was like for baby hands.
Yes.
Absolutely tiny controller. And all the PlayStation controllers were that way before the PS4. I've held a PS4 controller before. I've never really used one extensively.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like the PS5 controller is definitely the biggest one. But for someone who has little baby hands, it's not so big that it's uncomfortable.
Okay.
But it's big enough to feel like I feel like they had to make it that big to add in all the extra stuff that they threw into it.
Right. And, and we say this too. Remember, we come from the era of the original Xbox. And
Yes.
that controller was beefy.
Massive.
That was a beefy mother lover. So I will say it's right now, I would say the Xbox One controllers right now. But I'm going to be honest too, those controllers, man, on the market, the bad boys are kind of breaking on me. I don't know what's going on. I have went through 3 controllers, and like literally I'm on my 4th one right now, and the trigger gave out. The left trigger just gave out.
Damn.
So I had to crack it open and do, the quick fix on it. So it's like, I may just have to figure a way out to maybe get a PS5 controller and just, get the downloads and just download it straight to my PC.
Like comfortability in the hand, I would definitely say, like I like the feel of the Xbox controller a little bit better.
Okay.
But like the PS5 controller, like while it doesn't feel as nice when you're just holding it, like all the extra technology that's in it,
Mm-hmm.
it does like feel better while you're playing with it, if that makes sense.
Yes. Which is a big thing. Like a lot of people, again, we've been gaming our whole lives. So we've seen the evolution of controllers alone within that space. So
I've held every Nintendo controller, every Sega controller, every Xbox controller, every PlayStation controller.
and it's like they're different.
Oh, yeah.
And you think about that too, like just think about the N64 and like how we went from the N64 to the GameCube controller. And
I know it might be controversial, but the N64 controller, honestly, one of my favorite controllers that was ever made.
That's a hot take. That's a hot take.
I loved that controller.
And I think for most people, the only reason why that controller was successful and failed, because first off, it just looked weird for the time. But
It did.
that Z button on the back of that controller, when I tell you, perfect placement.
Oh, yeah.
Like, man, and when you really think about it, the C buttons and that setup, everything looked like it was so far apart, but they modeled all of their games so well that you never really thought about that as an issue.
Yeah.
So it's like it's not I'm not gonna lie, it's not in my top 3 controllers. But I think if I would have had to spread down the top 5, I could possibly see it maybe being like number 5 in my list.
That's fair.
I can see that because I will say the controller game has evolved very well when it comes to tech.
Controllers have definitely gotten a lot better than they used to be. While I enjoyed a lot of the old controllers, like the Super Nintendo controller. I enjoyed, like the N64, the GameCube controllers.
Mm-hmm.
In no way, shape, or form am I going to try and sit here and tell people they're like, oh, well, it's just better to play games with the GameCube controller. It's not.
It's not.
It's not. You should get you an Xbox controller, PlayStation controller, Nintendo controller from like these current generations. You should play with that. Like, they're just better.
Yes.
There's nostalgia and like good memories and attachment to the old controllers, and they were good for the games that were made for them, but they're not good for the games
today
now.
At all. And that's a huge thing that people always should remember. Key bindings, key configurations, I mean, even mouse and keyboard. Like there's mouses that have like 50 keys on them, 50 buttons on the mouse alone. Are you going to use all of them? Possibly not. But you'll figure something out. Still sticking with the PS5 and Sony. So with your purchase of the PS5, you got the one that doesn't have the Slim doesn't come with the disc tray built into it. So you've gotten your hands on there at the PlayStation Store. What's the one game that's kind of caught your attention so far, and what do you think of the whole like PlayStation Store?
So I haven't bought anything specifically from the PlayStation Store yet. Most of what I've been playing through, I found a deal for like 30% off for a full year of PlayStation Plus.
Okay.
So we've just been going through and playing a lot of the PlayStation Plus stuff. For a lot of the listeners, PlayStation Plus is basically just PlayStation's version of Game Pass.
Right.
It allows you to play, a pretty big library of games, and then you can stream certain games to your phone or to your PC, stuff like that.
Right.
And so far, the biggest games that I've been enjoying from that is like the new Ratchet and Clank, because that's something that I haven't been able to play for a while because I just didn't have a PlayStation, but I can now. So I've been enjoying that, and that has proved to me 2 things. One, a lot of the old series that we used to know, they can come back with absolutely no change in formula, and they'll perform well. Because Ratchet and Clank did it. It plays exactly how Ratchet and Clank has always played. Just with like better camera controls, like more like fluid visuals, stuff like that. Just like modern niceties, but it plays exactly like Ratchet and Clank.
Now, I will say, before you continue, because I am a huge Ratchet and Clank fan, when the Jak and Daxter Ratchet and Clank war happened, I was team Ratchet and Clank all the way. One cool thing about the new game that came out on the PS5 is that that was one of the first games to have seamlessly like no loading screens through planets. Yeah. So like that was kind of like them showing the power that the PS5 can do for this game. And I thought that was like crazy cool. That you're able to jump to different planets without a loading screen or jumping into a planet or a plane, and I thought that was cool.
If I gotta play devil's advocate, nothing against Insomniac. Y'all did your stuff with Ratchet and Clank. I love y'all's games. But Naughty Dog got y'all beat for a while. They did that with the first Jak and Daxter on the PS2.
And hey, culture clash in this piece, bro. I'm just saying. And you're not wrong though. Like I say, you got to give respect to where respect is due. Jak and Daxter did push. They were the pioneers, the first to do it.
Yeah, it's like that's something that, as someone who is working on my own game right now too, I also want to have as close as possible to a no loading screen experience. Walking in buildings, through cities, out in the wilderness, etc. I want a no loading screen experience. And Jak and Daxter's level of fluidity, area to area, that is something I aspire to. Like, absolutely love it.
And again, like, and it's those little things too with just gaming in general when it comes to that. It's like seeing how we went from loading screens, just the simple fact of like Mass Effect, where they hid all of their loading screens behind elevators,
Yeah.
which was genius for that time. Like, hey, we're not going to have you always jump in the ship. Well, let's give them an elevator to go on, a longer than normal elevator, and we'll put some dialogue in there to keep you kind of distracted while we load up the next thing for you. The Dragon Ball Z Budokai games, how they had the mini games that you played while loading, and if you didn't know, listeners, they actually bought the rights, the copyrights for that type of loading screen, which was hilarious. Didn't know you could do that. They're like, no other game will have interactive loading screens but us.
Yep.
Try me.
My favorite technique that a lot of different developers will use is like pushing you through either like a narrow ravine or like a hallway in a building, something like that, where it causes you to have this super narrow view, and then all of a sudden it'll widen back out, and that gives them just enough time to unload everything you just saw and then load in everything you're about to see.
Right. I think the Spider-Man 2 game, the Marvel Spider-Man 2, the one that came out for the PS5, I think they had those moments too. I know one person was saying that there's a mission where you're going through like Doctor Strange's portals, and how seamlessly it's like you're going from New York to the Arctic back to New York, perfect, with like no type of lag, no type of like loading. And to know that games have gotten to that point where it's now just seamlessly like that is amazing.
I mean, they've definitely come a long way. They're able to do a lot more without loading screens now, without having to use quite as many tricks as they used to do. Because back in the day, to achieve no loading screens, you had to have trick after trick after trick to make it happen. You were either going to have a ravine, or you were going to have a long elevator ride, or you're going to ride a boat somewhere, like something. Whereas nowadays, they're able to do a lot of that more seamlessly without a lot of those tricks. Like,
Right.
the power between these consoles, just not the same.
Not the same at all. And objectively, and I will say this too, because you also PC game.
Yes.
So, compared to your PC, how do you feel the PS5 stacks up to it?
So, that depends. If it's a game that was made for the technology that the PS5 has, so if it was made with things like their touchpad, the gyro in the controller, the adaptive triggers, stuff like that, if it was made with that in mind, usually I feel like it plays a little nicer on the PS5.
Okay.
But those are also generally the games that don't release anywhere else but the PS5.
Right.
Whereas, like, if it wasn't specifically designed for something like that, I feel like I almost always prefer the PC.
Okay.
Just because it's a more convenient place to access everything.
Right. It took a while. Like I said, I've been mainly PC gaming now since I would say maybe 2020. I would say. I think I built my computer around 2020.
Sounds about right.
And I never looked back. So I have a Switch, so I have like that. I felt there was no reason for me to buy an Xbox at this point, because the PC, like, Microsoft has easily converted everybody's tower into pretty much an Xbox at this point with how they've integrated everything. So it's like Sony always had my heart when it came down to it. So like I do eventually want to get a PS5 because I have all the other ones. So it's like for my collection, I want one before we get to the next like PS6 or whatever. Like I want to be there Of course, be able to play some of the exclusives that only come out for PlayStation 2 as well. But
Yeah.
but yeah, that performance, man. And I know my computer is not the most up to date thing. I could definitely use a better graphics card and a couple more updates. But I've always loved the consoles for the convenience. It's
Yes.
you pay a set price. These games are going to work for that set price. Um, I think that is what's making a lot of people kind of frown with the PS5 Pro right now. I have seen some games performed on it, and they say like you can tell the difference in the performance, but is it really? They're like you can tell the difference, but it's not that much of a difference that they think it's worth that kind of money.
Honestly, that's fair. That's part of, along with the price. The price was definitely the biggest motivation.
Right.
But the reason I didn't even really consider like a PS5 Pro or something like that was because when it comes to consoles, like performance isn't what I'm looking for. If I want performance, like I don't have the craziest PC, but it's good enough. Like I have like 32 gigs of 4800 meg RAM. I have it's like the 70 it's like the 7750 X3D. I forget the exact numbers. Um, for my processor, I have 4070 Ti for my graphics card.
Mm-hmm.
It's like when it comes to performance, my PC will outperform all of the consoles I have. If I need the performance, just raw performance,
Mm-hmm.
that's where I'm going to go every single time. But that's not what I go to consoles for. They're convenient. Controllers make it a different experience from keyboard and mouse. Keyboard and mouse can be nice sometimes,
Yeah.
but like a controller is just a different experience.
Oh.
It's a little like more almost tailored, I
Mm-hmm.
think might be the right word. Like,
Yeah. I
but when
would.
it comes to performance, like I would never go to the PlayStation for that. Like I would never buy a pro console for that
For that.
purpose.
I would definitely agree with that. I've never looked at my console as like, oh yeah, I'm getting this for like of course seeing the graphics upgrade from console to console has always been kind of a thing.
Yeah,
But like I'm a gamer, like I just wanted the system so I could play these games that I can't play on an Xbox or I need my Wii or my GameCube because I can't play Nintendo on this. So it was just kind of like, yeah, crazy seeing how we're going into a generation now in gaming where we low key may only have your Steam Deck type platforms soon. I know there's rumors that Microsoft is going to be revealing maybe a Steam Deckish type of handheld themselves. So if
yeah.
they if they throw themselves in there along with Game Pass, that's a huge step forward for just gaming on the go. And I know you mentioned because of your PlayStation doesn't have disk drive, you've been testing the network, the PlayStation Network in their format. So what do you think about them and kind of like what's your critique on theirs? Because of course you've used Game Pass before.
Yeah.
So like what like if you had to critique both of them, what do you think?
Game Pass definitely is a lot better when it comes to availability, like quantity of games and where those games are available.
Mm-hmm.
Because with Game Pass, I can play it natively on an Xbox or on my PC, and then I can game stream to anything that runs a Chrome-based browser.
Right.
So PCs, most smart TVs, I think like Samsung smart TVs have an app in their app store that you can just stream straight to a Samsung TV for it.
Mm-hmm.
You can do it from like Google Chromecasts. You can do it from like Amazon Fire Sticks.
Mm-hmm.
Like anything that runs a good enough browser, you can stream Game Pass straight from it. So when it comes to like availability of devices and where you can play the games, as well as like quantity of games, Game Pass wins that hands down.
Okay.
When it comes to the quality of like the library, after going through both of them, there's a lot more games that I would want to play from the PlayStation Plus. Um, and that is, of course, taking into account that there are a lot of games that are on both. So, like, all the Elder Scrolls, those are on both. All the Fallouts, those are on both. The Doom series, that's on both. Like, Back for Blood is on both. And so, like, there's quite a few that they have in common where it's like, okay, I could play that either place. But there's a lot of stuff, like a lot more RPGs. So, like, there's Final Fantasy games, Assassin's Creed games, stuff like that on PlayStation Plus that's not on Game Pass. I know there's some Assassin's Creed on Game Pass, but the whole series is on PlayStation Plus.
Okay.
Um, and so, like, you have some of that where it's just like the types of games that I would actually want to play are more on PlayStation Plus, but the availability of Game Pass is better. When it comes to their game streaming, though, Microsoft, you need to take some notes. I've done a lot of game streaming. Like I've tested cloud gaming a lot. I've done it on my phone, like at the house off of Wi-Fi. I've done it from my PC that's wired straight in. I have gigabit internet. Um, I've done it like on my phone over cellular data. I've done it from like store Wi-Fi's and stuff like that. I've tested it in quite a few places just to see like what situations does it work with.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of like a 50-50 shot on whether or not you're going to have good enough internet to actually play a game. It's not really great odds. And even then, it has pretty bad input lag. So if you have a game that you need like quick reaction times and stuff like that, it's not really going to work well through game streaming. So like a lot of your first person shooters aren't going to work, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
PlayStation Plus though, when it came to their game streaming, now to be fair, I've only tried this on my PC and on the PlayStation itself. I haven't done it from their it's like the PlayStation Remote app or something like that on the phone. I haven't tried that yet. But on the PC and on the PlayStation itself, absolutely no input lag. I mean, I'm sure there's some, but I didn't feel it.
Right.
Whereas I've never not felt it when doing the Game Pass streaming, but I didn't feel the input lag with PlayStations. Microsoft needs to take some notes. Like that was awesome. I never thought game streaming could be like that. I always thought, okay, it's always going to be kind of a downgrade, just like a convenience type thing. And then I tried that and I was like, oh no, Microsoft need to fix it. Like it can be that way.
Now, do you think they haven't touched that because maybe they're focused on just acquiring all of these companies right now? Do you think they kind of just put a lot of their focus on one direction that they've haven't touched it? Do you think like Microsoft could be able to reach that?
Well, I feel like when it just comes to the raw size of the companies, Microsoft definitely has the resources. They could fix it, I think. They're a much bigger company than Sony is. Because, like, yeah, while Sony is big in gaming and a few other devices with, like, audio stuff, a few other, like, they have their smartphone line and a few other, like, computer and smart home products and stuff like that. Microsoft owns Windows.
Right.
And the vast majority of every business everywhere runs Windows. They're making money on money from IT help, from selling Windows licenses, from licensing Windows machines for new builds, from licensing Windows to enthusiasts that are building their own PCs. Windows is huge, and that has built just an insane, wealth pile for Microsoft to draw from. I feel like because their business is so much bigger, they have a bigger hardware division, because like not only do they make Windows, but they sell their own laptops and tablets and PCs and all that stuff too.
Mm-hmm.
They have all their own headphones and whatnot. They've partnered with Samsung for phones and stuff like that. Just because of how much bigger Microsoft is,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like they could fix it. Like, Phil, listen to me, Phil. I understand these game developers, they're enticing. You want these game developers. Stop it. Leave them alone, Phil.
Let them breathe.
Leave them alone. Just
let them breathe.
spend that money
Yo,
somewhere else.
Microsoft is like, I'm always gonna say this, man. Microsoft is trying to become the Disney of gaming, yo.
They're trying.
Like, dang.
Like, leave them alone, Phil. I don't think gaming is going to do good if it's just like a bunch of developers owned by one company.
Right.
Now, that doesn't mean that I want the alternative, which is going to be a bunch of developers owned by like 3 companies.
Right.
I would like a lot more diversity than
Now,
that.
I want to play both sides of this, but just because we've seen kind of the negative standpoint of what's been happening this year, with this, like with all of these smaller companies having to like, close because of situations like this, it's like on one end, a lot of the smaller companies, it's like, I'm happy that you were able to be noticed by one of the big like publishers, but of course they don't, you get acquired and they don't let you kind of like spread your wings.
Yes.
They confine you to a box, and then when that box does not work, they just get rid of you. And I think that sucks. You see how like Hi-Fi Rush, how that game broke so many ratings. Like, people love that game, but the game did not produce financially the way they wanted it to. So
Yeah.
we've lost that company that made that game. And
Yep.
then look on the bigger end, the bigger scale. It's like your Ubisofts, things like that. Where even recently I heard that Ubisoft was possibly considering just not taking public big publishers anymore, and just going back to becoming like a private company. And don't quote me on this, but I think like the CEO and all them was like, if this does not work, if this new Assassin's Creed does not work as planned, we may have to like pivot and go back to the old way and become a private company and just start creating again.
I have never hoped so much in my life that an Assassin's Creed fails.
Because literally, like,
Love that.
when I tell you Ubisoft is in such a weird spot right now, it is scary. Because they just announced that they're closing the Division, not the Division, First Defiant or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, they literally came out, I think, this week and said like it's done. Like, they're not gonna pursue it anymore. They're not completely closing the servers right away, but they're not accepting any new registrations for the game.
Yeah.
So they've tapped out with that. You try so hard, and again, you try so hard to beat or to become the Call of Duty, to the point where instead of you just making a genuine shooter, you dumped all of these things I'm pretty sure their publishers wanted. The microtransactions, the season passes. It's like, maybe sometimes just give us whatever happened, just giving us a solid shooter, a decent story, and a strong multiplayer. That's the formula. It's worked this long. Look at Call of Duty. I hate to say it, but look at Black Ops 6 is fun. I don't care what no one says, man. They can hate me. I don't play it all the time, but dang it, I played zombies for a good. I almost missed an appointment because I got caught up playing zombies.
I feel you.
That's how bad it was, man. it's scary, but at the same time, it's so like, man, I haven't. I love it when a game genuinely gives me like that feel again, and that's been really hard because we're all busy. You know, we all have jobs, we all have lives. Life be lifing, as you know, one of my favorite things to say. Life be lifing. So when you have the time to actually like sit down and play a game, it's been really tough for me to dabble in some of these newer games because they're either copy and paste the same thing that I've already played 5 times before, or it's just bad.
Yeah.
These newer games, like I recently just re-uploaded Oblivion. I, you know, and I'm loving it. Like I got it back on my computer. I got the mods going. You know, we were talking about it a little bit off podcast, but literally like there's so many games that I could be playing, so many new games that I could be playing, and I reverted right back to Oblivion.
Yeah. I found myself doing that a lot myself. And it's no, like, absolutely no hate to the developers, because a lot of developers get hate from the communities where they're like, oh, these developers just don't want to, like, they either don't know how or, like, they don't want to make, these types of games. And it's like, I haven't talked to them all. I'm not going to claim to know, what every developer thinks and feels. But I've talked to some, and the ones I've talked to are pretty unanimous when they're like, yeah, we don't want to do these things, but like there are companies above us that are making decisions without our input. Like
Right.
we are not asked about this. It just happens.
Right.
And when it comes to that, like the only way that I can think of to fix it is like if you are not a gamer, like if you're not involved in this culture, stop making decisions on what should be in a game.
Please tell. Oh man, preach, bro. Preach.
Like I don't mind if, we want certain things to be in a game, and I don't mind if someone who's a gamer and also a businessman is trying to figure out, how can we make money off of this. But I at least want it from the perspective of like they understand the culture of gaming. They understand what makes a good game versus a bad game, and just try to make a good game at the end of the day. Like, we have too many suits that have never picked up a controller
Oh, for sure.
making these decisions.
For sure. Or these suits, they see how another form of entertainment works.
Yeah.
And they try to establish, like, the way a movie succeeds versus how a game succeeds is completely different.
Very different.
But you start to see how, like, a lot of these publishers who are like, well, this is your big AAA game, right? Yes, so let's treat this like Marvel. Let's put hundreds of millions of dollars behind it. And the developer is like, why? We can make this same game for like 10 million? Do we have to put 100 million into this game? You know? Like, and I think that would be a better practice. I think we mentioned it before. Like, here's $100 million to your company. In this fiscal year, I need you to take this 100 million and make as many positive projects that you can. Go. But I need at least one AAA title with this 100 million. And instead of them going, you have this one game to make that money back, show me what you can do. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, if a developing company, like, let's say FromSoft, right? Because they've already said that they're not making Elden Ring 2 no time soon. So let's say they took $100 million and said, well, let's go ahead and maybe put some of this into another DLC, put the rest into like this IP, You know, people like Bloodborne. Let's invest some of that making that Bloodborne remaster that we've been talking about. You know what I'm saying? So it's like at the end of the year, you've only used $100 million, but look at how many projects you've kickstarted and maybe revised. Look at The Last of Us and Naughty Dog right now.
Yeah.
They have literally put all of their money into the basket of The Last of Us. So
Yeah.
if the community gets burnt out, what do? You just invested millions into this one property. And I hate to say it, it's coming. Like
It is.
like the TV show, season 2 should be coming out soon. So that's going to be out there. Then they're going to bring the next part of The Last of Us out. They're going to burn out before it's like you had something, we enjoyed it, let it rest for a while. Uh Assassin's Creed, like you mentioned earlier, like Assassin's Creed, when we were getting it maybe like every 2 years, 3 years between Assassin's Creed games, it hit different.
Yeah.
But then the second it became a yearly release, we started to see the holes.
Yeah.
So again, I am no money matician. I'm no mathematician. I'm no accountant. I'm just a proud gamer who's tired of seeing these companies close. What do we do? We're already like 50 million in the hole. You can't.
Yeah.
What do we do? Because Microsoft is a business at the end of the day. Sony's a business at the end of the day.
Yeah.
If anybody wants to see it, look at Concord. That, to me, that's the prime example of 2024. Sony put all that money into Concord and it did not even fly. It literally just burnt day one. So I mean, we know it's not changing no time soon.
Oh no.
This money train is here to stay, sadly.
Unfortunately, and it's a sad thing, but it happens to basically every industry eventually. That when it becomes, or at least for media industries, that when it becomes a thing where they can just ride a trend to make really big money, whether it's sustainable or not, that's irrelevant. If they can ride the trend and make big money, that's what they're going to do.
Right.
And if it means that they're just going to throw a company out at the end of the day because, oh well, your trend is over now. We used you up. That was all you were good for. We'll get someone else.
Right.
Unfortunately, that's how it goes in a lot of the media stuff. Whether it's movies, TV, games, etc. Like, gaming's just the newest one on the list.
Yeah, and it's sad, man, because you don't want to see people lose their jobs. It's
Yep.
that's the reality of it. We're playing these games for entertainment. They're making these games for a living. It hits different, I think, when you look at it that way. We don't have to buy these games, and then we'll scratch that. We don't have to subscribe to your service. So I can imagine if music, like, think about how, like, we've talked about like music streams on this podcast. Imagine how video game companies, how developers have to feel. It's like if we can't get a clear answer on how downloads work for music, I can imagine how they're trying to figure this out when it comes to gaming.
Yeah. I don't know how that split is working. The only thing that we've been told, and it is a very non-transparent answer, when Phil Spencer at one of the conferences that they had, he was asked by someone in a Q&A session. They were like, is Game Pass something that is teetering on the edge? Is it something that could go away? And the only answer he gave was that Microsoft and their partners are making plenty of money from it, and it's been discussed, and all parties are satisfactory with the current arrangement, and it will continue for this foreseeable future. Which, while like, yeah, I'm glad to see Game Pass will stay around, but at the same time, like, that's not a very transparent answer.
Right. Like what do you think about gaming streaming services pretty much?
You're talking about like the subscription services for
Yeah.
gaming, like
Like your Game Pass, your PlayStation Network, things like that.
for the customer, it is most definitely like the best value that exists in gaming. Like between Game Pass and PlayStation Plus, I'll spend a little over $200 this year and be able to play several dozen games if I wanted to.
Mhm.
You know, more than that, I ain't got time for it, but at least a few dozen that I'll never have to buy. And that's already well more than the price I've spent on those services combined.
Right.
So, like, when it comes to price for the customer and availability for the customer on our end, like, they're amazing. I can only hope that it's also worth it for the developer. I know it's probably worth it for companies like Sony and Microsoft because they're the ones that get the full subscription price when you pay it.
Right.
I don't know what the developer's cut is for that. I don't know if developers are making a reasonable amount of money based on, you know, the downloads and whatnot that they get from those services.
Mm-hmm.
I can only hope that it's a fair enough and a profitable enough split to make it worth it for them as well.
Now, do you think you saying that literally sparked something in my head? Do you think that's why Microsoft, Sony, and them were buying these bigger companies so they wouldn't have to worry about the split? So it all comes back to them anyway because we own the company now.
I don't think that it was necessarily about avoiding the split because both of them still kept these developers as separate entities, but just like underneath their umbrella, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
What I think it was mostly part of is kind of the same way that Disney's done, where you have your like your, for lack of a better term, like your streaming service now. Um, and now you need to ensure that you have ongoing future content for it.
Okay.
And so Microsoft can guarantee for Game Pass that they'll have ongoing future content from, you know, a lot of the big hitters like Bethesda, Activision, Obsidian, etc.
Right.
And then Sony on their end is making sure that they have ongoing content, you know, from a lot of the big hitters. A lot of theirs have been around kind of the entire time with, you know, places like Insomniac, Naughty Dog, etc.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, they haven't done it near as much as Microsoft. They have bought their own fair share of studios. But I honestly just think it's mostly like, okay, we've made this streaming service. Now we have to provide ongoing content. Why are people going to continue to pay this price?
Right. Kind of building up a cushion pretty much for the future.
Yeah.
So we'll never be without pretty much.
Yeah, because, I mean, when you think about it with Disney, like they bought up Marvel, Lucasfilm, they bought National Geographic, ESPN, Hulu. They own
ABC.
Pixar. They own ABC. They own Fox. They own like just a crazy amount,
Right.
and it's all available on, you know, their streaming service.
Mm-hmm.
So all the shows that those companies produce, it's available on their streaming service. Because like I have the bundle with Disney Plus that has Hulu, ESPN, and Disney Plus all in the same thing, and I don't even need a separate app now. I open up Disney Plus, Hulu and ESPN are just tabs inside Disney Plus.
Mm-hmm.
So like with them owning all of this stuff, they can make it so that like, okay, our streaming service is the best way to do this now because you just have to have our app and you get all of this content.
You get all of this. It's pretty much taking something that was very convoluted, I guess is the word, and simplifying it. But in return, they're making hand over fist money off of it.
Well, they're simplifying it, but at the same time, it's like also the enticement for you to stay. Because when you think about it, like Disney Plus probably easily has one of the biggest libraries of like content to watch. When you consider how much is on Hulu, and that's combined with the app already, then you have everything from Marvel and Star Wars, Disney itself, Pixar, National Geographic, ESPN. Like, they probably have the most just raw content. And that's enticing to stay because it's like, oh, well, I always have something that I might be in the mood to watch.
Right.
And they know what they have too. Because like when you're flipping through, is like it'll have the suggestions where it's like, oh, Moana 2's exclusively in theaters. Why don't you watch the first one again so that you can be prepared for it?
Right.
The Mufasa movie's coming out. Why don't you go watch through the other Lion King movies so that you can be ready for that one? Like, so they'll have a lot of stuff like that where it'll come across the top of like, oh, well, this is what's happening and this is the stuff we have related to it. So these are things you could be watching right now.
The sheer fact that they've been able to purchase the rights to all of that.
It's insane.
Crazy, bro. Like I remember, because it's crazy too, because I think like while we're on this Disney thing, like I just saw a post a couple days ago that said like starting in January 2025 that the Disney Channel cable, the network, is officially going to be like closing after 27 years. So it's like Disney to me is pretty much like, yeah, we're picking up our stake out the ground because we're in the streaming ether now. Like, and I was telling my wife like, yo, like that time that we never thought we would not have like cartoons on television.
Yeah.
Like, and now it's like we have to wonder if they're going to even offer everything now on a streaming service. Because that's honestly why I got Disney Plus. Because they literally, when Disney Plus first started, I'm a day oneer. I had Disney Plus since the beginning. And I remember when they had like Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers, Darkwing Duck, the original DuckTales. They had my childhood. And they're not showing those shows anymore on television. I mean, heck, I don't even have cable. So,
me either, man.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like I can't. It's like I hate it because like I can't sit here and be like, oh, this is outrageous. I'm like, I'm a part of the problem. In a way,
yeah,
and they sit there and people go, oh, well, what you were paying for cable, you're paying now in streaming services. I'm like, no one told you to get all of them.
I ain't paying that even remotely
at all. Personally, yeah.
I've looked at cable bills. That ain't what I'm paying,
and mine's ain't nowhere near it. Because Lord knows I will unsubscribe to something I don't use.
Yep.
Just period. And then you have like Netflix. So I know if you have T-Mobile, you get a free Netflix account.
That's the only reason I got Netflix.
Same.
Like straight up, if that was not a perk of T-Mobile, I wouldn't even have it.
Possibly, yeah. Because normally, if I want to watch something on Netflix, I just go to my parents' house. So it's like, we have Prime. We didn't even talk about Amazon and their stake in this stuff. But it's interesting. It like streaming in general. The era that we're in right now with this type of media is crazy interesting.
Yeah.
Coming from a very direct, a very direct form of entertainment when it came to cable, your viewership, your network television. Pretty much now we're not entering, but we're in the era of the streams. So where we're not even thinking of it like networks.
Yeah.
It is literally like the sheer fact that cable is still holding on right now is remarkable.
That's
And
astonishing. Honestly.
and I give it personally, I give it like one more decade, and then it's gonna not exist anymore. You see a lot of because my opinion, it's the talk shows, it's the live talk shows, and the sports that's keeping network television kind of like reliable to people. So like your stories, as we call them, Days of Our Lives, those
Yeah.
shows. So it's like once a streaming service figures out, oh, we can just take that, port it here, you don't need to be on that network anymore.
Yeah. And that's where I feel like a lot of it is going to get to. Because we already saw for the first time with, now not recently, but like, a few years ago when Netflix and Hulu and all that started to do their originals, like that's when we saw for the first time, okay, we can release episodes serially through a streaming service.
Mm-hmm.
You still get weekly episodes, same day, but with the benefit of, oh, traffic was terrible, that's fine. You can start the episode whenever you want to once you get home. You don't have to be home at a specific time. But it's still new episode day. You can still get home. You can still see your show. Like, so they figured out how to make that experience, but somehow more convenient. And like, I feel like stuff like that is going to be what eventually like puts the nail in the coffin for cable. Because when it comes down to it, when you think about cable and the experience that you have, it is in basically every way less convenient than a streaming service.
Right. By far. And your cable providers are pretty much now your internet providers.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if anything, like they won't go away. I think they would just end up possibly like how we said, they'll just become a part of the package deal, which a lot of them already are.
Yeah.
Sign up for Xfinity Internet, you get Hulu for half off or something. Who knows? It's and
Well, T-Mobile's starting home internet now, and they already have the deal that if you get a T-Mobile, phone bill through T-Mobile, you get Netflix. So I wouldn't be surprised if their home internet came with Netflix like soon too.
yeah, and
Honestly.
I will say, I was gonna say because we did try the T-Mobile home internet for a little bit, and
I wouldn't recommend it if you can get something better.
Yeah, I personally, it only was bad because we're in a very rural area.
Yeah.
So the benefit of it sucks it's like if your phone connection is already kind of spotty, your internet's not going to be no better.
Yeah.
So
Because they do it off of 5G instead of through a cable.
Right. So it's like it's just better to go ahead and have the lines put in and be just straight cord all the way. You know what I'm saying? To wrap up this episode, 'cause this episode went by quick, man.
Yeah, it did too, honestly.
Yo, I see what I'm telling you, man. Look, we started talking about streaming, gaming, all that. Music. You get caught on the wave. Final question for you, Data, and
All
this
right.
is going back to the PS5. What is your final thought? Like what is your complete thought of the PS5? And would you recommend for someone to make that investment?
So starting off, final thoughts on the PS5. 100% worth it. I've enjoyed it. I've been able to play games that I've wanted to play for a while that I haven't been able to because they were exclusives. So 100%, I do think it was worth it. Would definitely recommend if you have the money and you already have another console and you want to play those exclusives, then like by all means go for it. You're not going to be disappointed. Like, it plays well. There's good games. Like, it's good. Alongside that, though, if you don't have another console and you're deciding like what console should I get into for this generation, my experience with all three of them, probably get an Xbox. If you don't already have a PC, get an Xbox. If you do have a PC, get a PlayStation. But if you have a PC, you basically already have an Xbox minus like a couple things. So at that point, I would get a PlayStation.
All right, you heard it. You heard it from Data, folks. Straight from the data. We gotta write that down. Write that down. That's gonna be a show. Straight from the data. Write that down. That's with that knowledge. Like I am definitely going to eventually get a PS5. I just know right now, because I invested so much into the PC, it's just kind of taken over my overall form of gaming. But for everybody that's listening, what is your go-to when it comes to gaming or streaming? Let us know in the comments. And while you're out there, for everybody that supports the podcast, thank you for always coming in weekly. Thank you for all the comments that we receive. Thank you for all of the shares and the reposts that we see all of it. So don't think we don't see these things. Just remember to please if you're listening to on Spotify, give us a download. Send the link out to a friend or an enemy, whichever one, who knows. If you're on YouTube, don't be afraid. Hit those comments up, you know what I'm saying? So, because we do see your comments, we do see your thoughts on there. I do want to say too, shout out to the new hotness, as I'm gonna call it. Shout out to Blue Sky. When I tell you, I have been having so much just like natural fun promoting the podcast on that site, and the community is growing at a nice rate. So I think it will be pretty interesting to see where we take this in the future. Did I miss anything, Data?
No, I think we hit all the points. Because we're on all the social medias. You can find us pretty much anywhere you want to. Keep that feedback coming. Mm-hmm. Chaos is a little bit better at the comments than I am. I don't see all those probably as well as I should. But
nah, you
get on that.
You've been on that TikTok.
This is true.
And plus, I get all the notifications on my phone, so so my phone goes off. I look at it and go, "Oh, it's somebody talking." So we're closing into the end of the year, so the next couple episodes are crucial, guys. Because 2024 is almost out, and Culture Clash. We started late in the year, but we've been going strong, man.
I mean, we got kind of a respectable little season going on here.
Yeah, this is definitely season 1. So, and the whole playlist of we have a whole playlist of season 1, I guess, of Culture Clash on YouTube. It's all the cut up videos. So if you don't have time or you don't want to sit through an hour plus stream, you can sit down and watch like the bits and pieces. Some of them are 15 minutes, some are 10 minutes, some are as short. Some are actually as short as 5 minutes. So just take your time and enjoy the content the way that you want to. I think with that, we're all wrapped up on this one, guys. So I'm Zero to Chaos,
and I am Melting Data.
And this has been another Culture Clash. Y'all have a good rest of your day. And always remember, guys, no matter what streaming service, no matter what system or console that you decide to have your entertainment on, just make sure you're playing Culture Clash. Until next time, we're out.
Peace.
Deuces.